Good, almost good noon. Wow. It may be a little earlier, maybe a little later. Maybe you're catching this on replay. Maybe you're live. You are. Stop in, say hello. Today, I was reading about success and reading different definitions of success. And one of those, John Maxwell, as you might know, I'm a certified coach with John Maxwell, and I often pay attention to what he has to say because he's lived it for 40 years, lived leadership, taught it to millions of people across. He's the number one leadership statesman, so to speak. Countries come to him to help improve their leadership, and he boils down success to the maximum utilization of the abilities of those under the leader, under the person. So in other words, those that are helping bring together the organization, if you utilize them to their maximum potential, then you'll have success. Anything less will not have success to that level. It'll be less. Andrew Carnegie, which you might know, very, very much powerful, had a very storied career, engaged Napoleon Hill to look at 500 people who were successful, to look at what their traits were, and came down to a burning desire. But he had this wish as an epitaph. I wish to have as my epitaph, here lies a man who was wise enough to bring into service men who knew more than he. Wow. Knew more than he. So you look at it, and you look at what his value was. If you take Bill Gates' empire, Bill Gates' wealth, and you multiplied it by 3, that's what Andrew Carnegie had. He was that rich, that wealthy, but it was because he utilized people. Now you can go and argue about how he utilized people, but the fact is he was very successful, and he was successful because of a couple things. He knew what people needed, and so he looked at how he could help people reach what they needed. Most people today, most people over time that are not successful lead because they have an idea of what they want, and then they persuade others to want it as much as they do. So, hey, I want to change the world. I want to build this rocket that will take off to the world, take off to another planet. Come join me and we'll make this happen. So the other way around, saying, what do you want? I would like to see us populate. I want us to, and then build like-minded people to utilize to get there, right? So it's a difference of how it's approached, but it's one thing that is, I think, all-inclusive of how you get to success. But there are certain traits that lead to that, and I'm going to use these from John Maxwell's book, How to Develop People Around You, but I think they're important for a clue into how to use maximum utilization. What's that attitude that you have? What's that characteristic? Now you can learn this and you can develop it. You're not necessarily born with it to say, oh, out of the chute, and only those people out of the chute can do this. But people who are able to look at this and move forward and develop it, and what is their level of personal growth? So there's these traits: positiveness, servanthood, growth potential, follow through, loyalty, resiliency, integrity, big picture mindset, discipline, and gratitude. Now, if you go down through all of those traits, I can detail all those out, but for our time here today, if you look at all of those traits, there's an underlying wish to grow, to be intentional in each of those areas, to take responsibility, to have accountability, to grow and develop each of those skills. So positiveness, servanthood, growth potential. So developing yourself, having that hunger, follow through. You have that desire to commit and follow through and make sure it happens. Loyalty, loyalty to the people around you, to the organization over your needs, over your wants. If you don't look to the organization or look to the people around you to support them, to be loyal to them, they're not going to be loyal to you. They're not going to be trusting you that you have their best interests at heart. Resiliency, how fast you can bounce back from any failure. Integrity, what you do is what you say. Big picture, that you lead but not manage. Let the people who are doing the work manage themselves and be held accountable. And you might hold them accountable, you create the environment, but you lead them to a greater place. And then discipline, being willing to do what is required. And gratitude, always leading with thankfulness and living that gratitude, living that thankfulness to the higher plane as to what it brings. So if you look at all those traits and say, okay, that's success. And if I maximize those traits, not only in myself, but help others maximize, success will happen. I don't have to push towards success. Success will be the result of the momentum of doing these traits. So here's 5 questions that I thought would be a great way to sum up today on personal growth for you. Wherever you're at, and you want to take a look at these questions periodically, maybe once a year, twice a year, but look at yourself, because you're going to grow, you're going to change, and your needs are going to change, your wants are going to change. And as you get there, do I have a game plan for personal growth? Do I have a game plan for personal growth? That's number 1. So Lisa, thank you for taking these notes. Thanks for commenting. You do a wonderful job in putting the notes down. I wish we could, talk and get the notes posted as comments. So I do appreciate them, because you provide a valuable service to me. So what is your game plan, Lisa? What's your game plan for personal growth? And are you a leader of that plan? That's the question number 2. So you might have a plan, but are you committed to it? Do you lead that plan? Do you incorporate it into your path? And am I willing to change to keep growth? Oh, this one's a tough one. Am I willing to change to keep growing? Am I willing to keep change? Am I willing to change to keep growth? Even if it means giving up my current position, if I am not experiencing growth. So am I willing to change to keep growing? Even if it means I have to give up where I'm at, change it because I am not in a growth position. And I've been there. I've been in a couple places where you just feel you're at a dead end. There's no way you're going to develop to anything further. You're pigeonholed and they don't know what to do with you. We were going through a merger of large institutions, and my role, they didn't know what to do with me. The people at the acquiring firm looked at me and said, well, I guess we could throw him in as an analyst and just put him in there and he could do data. But they really didn't get to know me. They just pigeonholed me and said, you're just going to be stuck there. We don't care. What we're after is the guy above you, your boss, because we're going to offer him the ability to clean up the house and take over control of the department, the new combined department. And I thought, wow, that's really terrible. At first, okay, so they got problems they don't want to address, but because of the merger, they'll be able to change things around, redefine roles and such, and maybe you'll find a role there and move up into something but I don't know what to do with you. And really, you're not the prize, even though I was the main person putting all the analysis together and providing it for my boss and for the other leaders in the organization. So it's like, I knew I wasn't going to go I wouldn't go the right place. The people there were not interested in me and developing me and to grow into a bigger position. They were just throwing me into a position because, well, my boss said, I want Joe, but he couldn't convince them that there was a bigger role for me. I wouldn't develop into something. So do we look at ourselves and say, are we comfortable where we're at, and not looking to say, okay, what's my next step? How do I grow into that step? What do I need to do now to grow into that step? So am I willing to give up my current position to grow, to keep moving forward? Is it important to me? So question number 4, is my life an example for others to follow? So we got to live it, right? Not only do we have to grow, but are we living it so others can see it, so that they get inspired, so they can see what it looks like? If we're saying we want to develop ourselves, do others see what you're doing to develop? Do they see the change in you? Do they see that transition that say, wow, he was a real hot mess when he came into this department, but now, or wow, this person was really a mess at the beginning of our marriage, but now he's grown and matured, or she's grown and matured, and we're having a much better communication. We're working together much more effectively as a family, in the workplace, in the community, whatever, wherever that might be. Do the people around you see that transformation so that they get inspired, that they can follow in a similar suit? Okay, number 5, am I willing to pay the price to become a great leader? So yes, there is sacrifice, there's more work. And I'm reading The Last Arrow by Erwin McManus. And in there, it's talking more about, are you leaving your quiver full of arrows? Are you not using everything to be all in? And that's the hope, is to be all in. So at the end of your life, you could say, I gave it my all. But there's a certain sacrifice. There's a certain, as you increase your level of calling, development, maturity, there's a greater responsibility to fulfill it, to act into it, not just to reach it, but to act into it. So am I willing to go that extra effort, that extra actions, those extra steps that I'm called to do so to fulfill that role? And this can be, it doesn't have to be your end of life goal. This can be anything in your life that you're going towards a higher level. Are you giving it all to get to that next level? And realize once you get there, you have more responsibility to go further. It's not a stopping point. It's a continuation point. It's, if you look along the way, right, along the highway, you see the little markers, right? And they tell you either you're how many miles from the start of the highway to how many miles, if you're, depending on the direction, to the end of the highway. Sometimes I'm traveling that highway and I know that I'm going to turn off at exit 2. I used to live in Muskegon, Michigan, and I-96 would take us from Detroit to Muskegon. And I knew when I was getting close, when I saw that magic exit 10, I knew I only had 6 more miles to go before I would turn off. And that was a marker. It was one of the markers, right? So as we go along our route, we know that, hey, it's not about getting to exit 4 or exit 10. There's still more work to do to get beyond that. But it's a marker that we're going to achieve it and move on and know that we put the, make sure we're still got the foot on the accelerator, that we're still traveling through. We're not cruising down and slowing down to 55 and a 70. Yeah, more. When you get to that point, exit 4, well, there's more. So for me, there was more. There was meeting up with my family, my parents, doing some things with them. There was that more responsibility. It wasn't just being there, stopping and saying, okay, I'm here, and not doing anything else. There was a greater responsibility waiting for me once I got to my parents' house. when you get to your destination, you're called to have greater responsibility, regardless of where you're in your life. So take a look at these 5 questions today. Do I have a game plan for personal growth? Am I a leader of that plan? Am I willing to move jurisdictions, move locations, physically or mentally? So am I going to move from what I'm doing to a more concerted effort? Am I being an example for others to follow? Or am I willing? Is my life an example, right? Am I living it? And then am I willing to pay the price? Am I willing to sacrifice something because I know I need to do more to get there? So those are the questions today. Thank you for stopping in. My name is Dutkiewicz. I am a John Maxwell Team certified coach, but I'm really your thinking partner. I help you get from where you're at to the next level, to think from where you are fully resourced and what you need to get to that next level, what you need to uncover, what you need to develop so that you are ready when that moment comes. So when you get to exit 4, you're already being built up, so to speak, or you're reaching that destination, you're reaching that point in your life where there's a big thing that's waiting for you at the end, at that milestone that you need to take further. You need to then take that responsibility and go further, or you're being called in many different ways. And we're going to help you define what that is and narrow it down so that you can have success. And success is maximum utilization of the abilities of those under you, but it's also the maximum utilization of yourself, of putting yourself full out into what you do and where you're going that brings meaning to your life. Take this day to think into your game plan for personal growth. Take a look into how you model it for others, how you live it daily, and take that step to recognize that there is more waiting for you, but you need to step forward into it. And don't fear it. Embrace it. That's all for today. Have fun. We'll talk tomorrow. Do well. Be good and do great things with each other. See you soon.